Hi folks, another report for you. Thought I'd give you another walk and talk, come around and show you some of the countryside around here. This is just a park out in the hinterland, kind of a nice place to be. But yeah, the world saga continues, hey? Here in Australia we've got all the state borders closed down. We've got new regulations brought in that anybody who enters the country now has to go into a hotel for quarantine as soon as they leave the airport, and the army has been brought in to make sure that that stays. Anybody who comes to Australia now has to go to a hotel 14 days I think, or 13 days in a hotel, and then they're able to go on to their final destination. If they've put 5G in the hotel, you might wonder where that final destination will be. That's another interesting thing that's been happening, folks. I've had it confirmed by a lot of people that while everybody is in lockdown around the world, they're rolling out 5G while people aren't looking. I've had reports come in from Switzerland, France, Seattle, somewhere else that I can't think of offhand, but they've all said that their phones have suddenly switched over to 5G. They didn't really know why, it just kind of happened. That's because they're putting in the infrastructure while people are locked away, folks. And there's a lot of reports coming out about this, folks, how the amount of metal in your body, when they switch 5G on, it's very likely a lot of people will develop coronavirus type symptoms. There's actually a very good talk that was put out. It's about a 10-minute talk, and I'm walking around here in the country and cannot remember the guy's name who gave the talk. He was a doctor. Might have been Dr. Cowan, something like that. I'm not sure. I will put the link below. But he points out that all of the so-called pandemics that we've had through history have all been when major changes have been made to the electromagnetic frequencies around the Earth. He pointed out that the Spanish flu in 1918, that flu happened when we introduced radio. When radio was switched on and people started communicating by radio, suddenly everybody got the flu. It happened right around the world. Even though the only mode of transport was, slow boats and, horse and buggy, people still seemed to transmit this flu, and it seemed to happen right around the world all at the same time. You've got to ask yourself how that could happen. He then pointed out that the next major outbreak of flu that we had was, I think, during World War II, when they switched on radar and everybody got sick again from the amount of electrical frequencies running through the air. The next time there was a major pandemic was when satellites were launched and were pumping electromagnetic frequencies down to the Earth from the ionosphere or wherever they put these things. I know there's people out there who say satellites aren't real. Whatever, folks, whatever. I'm just looking at the data. And the next time we see is, of course, with the introduction of 5G. He also pointed out that there was blanket testing of 5G in Wuhan. That was the first city that it went live, and it stands to reason that that's why most of the people got sick. But this is a multi-pronged action, folks. It really is. I mean, this is not what everybody thinks it is, and a lot of the people out there saying, well, this is the takedown of the deep state and all of that sort of stuff. I don't know, folks. There's a lot of really human aspects to this as well. There really is. I'm just going to see if I can turn this camera around. I've got a new camera, folks. I hope you like it. I hope the sound's better. But should be able to get it focusing here. There we go. Look at that. But I got an email from Jeff Berwick, just to break the thing here for a moment, just to break the dialogue. I got an email from Jeff Berwick. He told me what sort of camera he used and recommended I get one. And I don't know whether it was some sort of conspiracy or whether these guys are working together, but within about an hour of that email arriving, I also got an email from a friend of mine on Steemit, and I thank you very much. And he sent me a Bitcoin donation, a cryptocurrency donation, and said I should go and buy one of the cameras like Jeff Berwick's got, and he actually sent me the money to go and buy it. So I went and bought one. I honoured the donation and I went and bought one, so now I have a new camera, and hopefully I have better sound as well. I don't have the microphone that I wanted to have, but I've got one on the way, and this is just one that I had lying around, so hopefully it's working okay. But like I said, folks, there's a real human side to this that a lot of people aren't taking into account. You know, those people who say, oh, this is a big takedown of the deep state, it's all going to be a better world. There's a lot of people suffering through this. There really is. There's a lot of people who have lost their jobs. There's a lot of people who are really, really scared. I've got a heart-wrenching letter was sent to me by an Australian couple in Peru who are trapped there. They were doing a road trip from Terre to Iquitos, and they were in the dark, they were in the jungle, they didn't know there'd been any type of lockdown occur, and they left Terre, everything was fine. They came out of the jungle halfway to Iquitos into a town called Yaramingua. Yaramingua, I think it's called. It's on the river, on the Amazon, upper Amazon. And when they arrived in town, they were told the place was in lockdown, and they were told they were not allowed to leave. They got accommodation. They were told the lockdown was 2 weeks. They got accommodation. A woman put them up for 2 weeks. But then they got kicked out of there, and now the lockdown has been extended until April the 12th. And they're stuck in this river town in Peru, in the jungle, Yaraminguas, and the locals are scared of them. You know, the news team is driving around and using them as a backdrop to spread fear. The TVs are going 24 hours a day telling everyone that coronavirus is the big killer that's going to kill everybody, and everybody's scared of them. And they're very, very afraid for their lives. They've got an Italian man they're looking after as well, who's also trapped in Peru. The Australian embassy, of course, just pulled out and left all the Australians there. You can't even call the embassy if you're an Australian trapped in Peru. At least if you're English or American, you can call the embassy, and I think they are attempting some sort of action to get the people out. But if you're an Australian, they've simply left you there. You know, all the borders are closed here, right around the country. We're not in lockdown yet, as you can see, but they are talking about it. They say, no, we're not going to put everybody in lockdown, which would indicate that they are going to put everybody in lockdown. They've introduced new laws, I think I might have mentioned it before, where everybody who comes to Australia now has to spend 14 days inside a hotel. So they're believing this will stop the spread of the virus. But folks, this is a scam. This whole thing is a scam. It's about collapsing the world economic system and introducing everything they want to introduce. Vaccinations. Nobody's taking cash at the supermarkets anymore. They're just refusing cash. There are some machines you can put cash into, but generally they're just saying, no, we want you to use a card. So, you know, they want everyone to keep 1.5 meters apart. There's even talk, there was a report I saw this morning that said in Victoria, new rules, there were police will be out there patrolling, making sure people adhere to the 1.5 metre social distancing rule, and also if they see anybody gathering in crowds of more than 10, you can be fined $1,600 for gathering in a crowd more than 10, especially if you're not 1.5 metres apart from each other. It's absolutely ridiculous, folks. Lines in the supermarkets because everyone has to stay 1.5 meters away from each other. It's because they don't want people talking. They don't want people fomenting any plots against the government, folks. And they're just seeing how much they can get away with. And if they can keep it in place, they'll keep it in place. There's talk that this lockdown will actually last for up to 18 months. And again, folks, it's so they can roll out all their 5G infrastructure, because that's what they're doing while everybody is in lockdown. I've had reports come in from Switzerland, from France, from Sweden. Everybody says their phones have all switched over to 5G. They didn't do anything, they're just sitting there now looking at 5G operating in their home. 5G appears to affect you with the more metal you've got in your body, the more you're affected by these 5G waves. It would appear that those people who have had vaccinations are the ones that are going to be mainly targeted by the 5G, because the vaccinations have all got aluminium in them. A lot of people who use common table salt as well, the anti-caking agent in table salt, this is aluminium. So a lot of people are consuming a lot of metals and not knowing that they're doing it, and that seems to be what will trigger this coronavirus in people. I have no doubt that once they lock everybody down, and they sneak out and they put a 5G system in place and they start bombarding everyone with 5G, you're going to find a lot of people developing these symptoms, because the symptoms are going to be a reaction to 5G. As I said, there's a great talk that a man did. There was a doctor, I forget his name. If there's any edits in this, if I've said this before, I'll edit it out, because I pushed stop halfway through my talk, and it would appear that this is all 5G related, folks. I mean, there was even an article that was in the newspaper assuring people that 5G has got nothing to do with this, so that would indicate that it's got a lot to do with it. I mean, you know, whatever the government says, folks, you can be guaranteed the truth lies somewhere in the opposite direction. That's the thing. This is great, this little camera that I've got now. I hope this is working better. Look what I can do now, folks. I can do all sorts of things. I can actually switch it around and give you a view of the landscape around here. It's a beautiful place. The track that I was walking down. Keeping koalas safe. You like that sign? Keeping koalas safe, says the government, as they just burned most of the country down. Absolutely incredible that they say these things and they promote these sort of concepts. But yeah, I can do all that sort of thing now, which I think is pretty cool. So I thank Jimmy for sending me that donation, and I thank Jeff for his recommendation of the camera. Jeff was suggesting that I perhaps got the idea for these walk and talks from him. I actually got them from a lot of people. I was a little bit inspired by you, Jeff. There was other people as well. Actually, the first thing I tried to do was actually drive in the car and do it, but the sound was so horrible I couldn't do it. I came up with a lot of ideas in the car, but the car didn't work, so I thought, well, maybe walking around would be better. And I think it's good too. It's good for people to see that there is a real world outside. You know, perhaps that's something good that can come of this. You know, perhaps people will get in touch with the real world again. That's if they're allowed outside. That's the question. But you know, it's so contrived, this, folks. It really is. And some of the weird stuff I'm hearing, folks. Sorry, bit of an edit there. Pushed the off button and didn't mean to. But some of the weird stuff I'm hearing, like I've actually had people telling me that there was a time in the UK, I don't know whether this is true, but this is just what I've been told. There was a post on one of my videos that mentioned it, actually. But there was a time in the UK when they got everybody to go outside and stand on the roof or stand in their yards or stand in their balcony, whatever, and all clap their hands at 8 p.m. or something like that. And then I was told, or someone else commented as a response and said, yeah, they did the same thing in India. They got everybody to go outside at 5 p.m. and clap their hands. I mean, what's that all about? Are they just kind of saying, well, look at this, look how silly they are, look how compliant they are. We actually got them all to go outside and clap for their own imprisonment and clap for their own slavery. Look how much our control is, look how complete our control is. I don't know, but that's kind of what I get from that type of activity, folks. Let's walk through these trees here. Here's a nice little piece of scrub, folks. Where are we? What's going on with this camera? There we are. How's that? How's the lighting going to be? Looks pretty bad, eh? Maybe it'll come good once I get in here. But, yeah, it's a nice little grove in here. But yeah, wonder if what that was about, folks. Get everybody to go outside and clap their hands. I mean, what for? What for? What does that achieve? What does that achieve? Does it achieve anything? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know whether it does. It certainly would achieve something for them, though. Like I said, our power is complete. It's like complete public mockery, you know? The ultimate public mockery is what it feels like to me, anyway. Sorry, this camera's roving around a little bit. But that's what it feels like, folks. And, you know, the world is different. I mean, maybe this is a test run. Maybe they're not going to do the whole thing straight away. Maybe it's just a little bit too quick. Maybe people would get onto it too much. Maybe they're just doing this to see how far they can get away with martial law and just to show people that martial law is okay. You know, it would certainly make all of us conspiracy theorists look stupid, wouldn't it, if we're crying out that, oh, this is the end of the world, and then suddenly they put it all back to normal. Which they might do to a degree, but then it can never really go back to normal, can it? Because with what they've done to the economic system, I mean, the change is already done. The amount of people in the United States and here and everywhere who have lost their jobs, lost their income, the amount of small businesses that will go down. You know, and they're putting out all these sob stories saying, oh, we're going to do all these packages so that, you know, we want everything to just put on hold, but nothing really goes down. We want everyone to, you know, just go on to pause. Well, you know, I think they know themselves that can never happen. The damage is already done. You know, just by shutting down trade the way they've done, shutting down travel the way they've done, inconveniencing so many people in so many circumstances the way they've done, you know, things can never go back completely to the way they were. Even if we get some of our freedoms back, we won't get all of them back, because whenever they do one of these things, we never get all of them back. It just doesn't work that way. And that's not the way government works, folks. They don't want you to have all your freedoms. They just like to use these opportunities to take more from you, and that's what they do. So, you know, however it plays out, we are certainly moving into completely different times, folks. We're moving into a new reality. There's actually another great video that you should watch by James Corbett. James always nails it. He's been doing great reports for many years, folks. If you're not familiar with James Corbett, I mean, if you're watching me, I'm sure you're familiar with James Corbett. But he put out a video called Martial Law 2020 that I watched a few days ago, or Medical Martial Law 2020. Very, very good video. Breaks it all down. I recommend that people go and watch it. I'll put a link below so you can check it out. But yeah, you know, even if they do put things back a little bit the way they were, it'll never be back to being completely the way things were. And like I said, there's a lot of people that are suffering through this anyway. The couple in Peru, so many people are suffering in so many places around the world through this. So many countries are in lockdown, and I think it's going to get more so. I mean, even with what's happening in our countries, when I look at the extent the government of Peru's gone to lock those people down, there's a lot of governments that aren't going to miss this opportunity, you know. There's a lot of governments that aren't going to miss this opportunity. And so, you know, like I said, even if they do put it back to normal, it's never going to be back to completely normal. So, yeah, pay attention, folks. Keep your frequency high, keep your vibration high. Hopefully people will see it as the opportunity that it is. I mean, you know, for all intents and purposes, I mean, people are waking up in many ways. I've been pushing the envelope everywhere I go. I talk to every checkout operator and I tell them, you know, this is fake, don't you? You know, they're sitting there with their face mask on. I'll say, you look beautiful today. And I'll say to them, you know, this is all fake, and it's all just to cover up the government's financial mismanagement, don't you? And to create a two-class society, to introduce a universal basic income. That's what all these donations are all about, all these handouts from governments, folks. They just want you getting used to being in a welfare state. So they're prepared to give you as much money as it takes to do that. I mean, they just print it up out of thin air anyway. It doesn't matter to them. You know, but you watch, the more money they give you, the more everything's going to go up in price, because that's the way it works. It's called inflation. You know, inflation isn't the price of things being inflated. Inflation is the money supply being inflated. So every time you put more money into supply, each dollar is worth less. That's the way it works. So, you know, that's what this is all about, folks. So, yeah, you know, I can only hope people stay strong through all this. It'll be interesting to see if they do lock Australia down the way they've done other countries. Many people are scared to go outside. I was told that there was a man in Serbia who was given 3 years jail for not adhering to the stay-at-home rule, apparently. That's in Serbia. I mean, so many countries this is happening, you know, and it's happening to so many countries, you know, you can tell it's not a coincidence, and it's all been planned. The whole thing is one big orchestrated move. So, you know, even if it was to roll back to some degree in our countries, the amount of suffering we're seeing in other countries, the amount of suffering we're seeing through the third world and in other countries, and these are very, very totalitarian governments, some of these, so like I said, folks, there's a real human side to this that a lot of people aren't really paying attention to. A lot of people that are looking at the spy novel version of things and thinking this is all about taking down the deep state. You know, there's another side of this that people just don't see. But that's about all I wanted to bring you today, I think. There's probably a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't mention that I wanted to. It's always like that when I go for these walks. I have all this stuff that I want to say, then I get out here and I just get taken away by the splendour and I forget half of it. And I'm not sort of used to doing these walk and talks, but it's nice. It's nice to do them. It's nice to show people, you know, that there is a real world out here, and we don't have to do what these people say. That's what I'm hoping this will be, folks. Like I said, I'm hoping people will see this as an opportunity to stand up for their rights while we still have some. There's been legislation enacted in the UK now which basically takes away every single right that you have. And the same here in Australia. I mean, the government has gone basically on holiday until August and handed control of this situation over to the military and to the police. So, you know, we're effectively in martial law already. We're just not completely locked into our homes yet. But, you know, with the government just going on holiday, and, you know, in these sort of situations, all rights are suspended. But the legislation that's been enacted in England is absolutely horrendous. And I'll put a link below to that as well to the doctors that I mentioned that are explaining how this so-called virus works. Because viruses aren't even alive. Viruses can't be transmitted from person to person, certainly not from species to species. You know, nothing they're telling you about this is true, folks. It's all one big fiction. You won't get sick until they inject a virus in you, and that will come with the vaccines. So, yeah, pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. But that's about it for now. I'll leave it there, and I'll come back and give you another report in the next day or two. Thank you for joining me with this one today. Please take very good care until I talk to you next time. In Lakesh.